joining us Mr. Artis Hinson. Art, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Tyrone.
For our listening audience, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Well, I'm known as a cosmobiologist or a healing therapist also. So my specialty is that I create alternative therapies for all ailments to take the place of, say, pharmaceuticals if people choose not to use pharmaceuticals.
Okay, so you're more what you might say, what we might call a naturopath.
Yes, practicing is one, yes, definitely. I have 35 years of practice.
Why do you think it's important for humans, individuals, to consider going the natural route as opposed to synthetic medicines and certain types of chemicals that we have a tendency to put into our body?
Because the natural medicines do not have harmful side effects. And also, my therapies are based on essential oils, which are herbal concentrates. And they have been known as official medicine for 4,000 years, even in the textbooks that the medical professionals used up until the 1960s. So they're tried and proven over time, where new chemicals come out every day.
Peace, I'm Jeff Crosby. I am the bearded black brand nerd. I am brand strategist, brand consultant for Jeff Crosby LLC. Also the owner of the Branded Red Agency, where we do branding, layout, logo, and web design. I met Art in 1999. As I was on a journey to find myself and to get to know me a little bit better and get to know what it took to be me, I happened upon this store downtown. I don't remember if I just happened upon the store or someone took me in there. I don't really remember. That was a long time ago. But when I met Art, we connected, and at the same time we repelled each other. It was a Scorpio thing. He was a Scorpio, I'm a Scorpio. I called him Papa Scorpio, but he taught me a lot about myself. He opened his doors to me, and he took me in, and he realized that I was a sponge, and he poured into me. Like he just gave us so much information. He allowed us to come into his store and read and just absorb all the knowledge we could. So we read. And then once he realized that we weren't going anywhere, he realized he couldn't get rid of me because I love knowledge. Like I said, I was a sponge. I absorb knowledge. I've always been the type of person that loved to read, loved to learn. So once he realized he couldn't get rid of us, he gave us jobs. He taught us about the raw foods. He taught us how to make the raw food dishes. And then he gave us jobs in his kitchen at the store, making the raw food. And at the time, I was a little bit slimmer and a little bit younger. Body Ecology was the mecca for black hippies at that time. I guess we were a little bit cute, and Art put us in the window to attract the women. And we would stand in the window, and when women would come by and stop at the light, we would kind of wave them in and bring them in. Even the fellas, like, we attracted the younger crowd, and like I said, we became sponges. We learned as much as we can from them. We became really, really good friends. He was a mentor. He was like a grandfather or a father or an uncle all in one for me, and a really good friend. And I just learned so much from him, and I love that guy. And we would start hanging at his house, and we would start hanging on his land, and it became a ritual that every Sunday morning we would take a trip up to his land in Virginia and go swimming in the lake and hiking through the woods, and it was just so peaceful, man. it's not hard to tell that I'm no longer vegan or into the vegan lifestyle, but the lessons that art taught me helped me to create who I am and helped me to create my own style, helped me to create my own thinking level, and to be able to navigate my way through life a lot better. I don't think I would have made it to 48 had I not spent the time that I spent with that guy. I spent 10 years as a vegan, and I can promise you that put years on my life. He was just a very instrumental part of who I am and who I became. People would come from everywhere to come to the store. They would come looking for the store. And in this store, when you first walk in, to your right was the kitchen, where, like I said, myself and Jira we were preparing live foods. There was no oven, no stoves in this kitchen. There were sinks, chopping boards, and vegetable trays. So everything that we made was all raw foods, from pizzas to salads to drinks. We made everything raw. Just like in any grocery store, there was a fresh produce section where you can come in and get your bananas, get your berries, get your lettuce, spinach, and all of that stuff. And once you get past the food section, the books. It was, for a nerd like me, it was heaven. Like, it was just books upon books upon books, and on all different subjects. Anything that you wanted to learn about yourself. Like I said, most people confused art with wanting to teach you about veganism or wanting to teach you about healthy living. Art wanted to teach you about yourself. And again, in the store, all of these books were just on all subjects to help you get to know yourself. So you had books on veganism, you had books on food, you had books on medicine, you had books on astrology, you had just books on anything to get to know you, your brain, your soul, spiritual type books. Behind the books, there was the cooler where we would store the food so that people who came into the store could buy prepared food. And this stuff was in the cooler. Again, no cooking, but there was always prepared food, and we kept this freezer, refrigerator cooler full of food. The colors of nature, the colors would attract the people. There were drinks, ginger beer, and there was this avocado lime drink we used to. To the right of the books, there were crystals and trinkets that you could buy, necklaces and bracelets and beads and crystals. At the front of the store, there was an arts counter, and at this counter, I say that it was the mecca for black hippies, but art had all different flavors of people there. At the counter, he had two young white girls working with him, Krista and Heather, and he had an older woman working with him who became my spiritual mother, and I miss Sungay. He took intelligence and wisdom to another level, which is why I will easily call the man a genius. He learned how to mix oils based on your birthday and time, and this stuff actually worked. He also mixed colognes and perfumes based on the same thing, and you would have your own scent. And not only would as soon as their bottle was about empty, they would come get another one because they would always get compliments on it, and it was unique to you. It smelled like no one else in the world, unless they were born at the same day, same time as you were. Art's shop was located in downtown Greensboro. He had the entire building. He had other rooms where we did dance, we did yoga, we did meditation. We would also go out on the roof. He had this entire building, and the price that he was paying for this entire building is now the price that one tenant pays in that building. So, just my opinion, my conspiracy theory, I don't know. I think they burnt them out because they wanted the building. They saw the potential to make a lot more money in the building. I think that the powers that be did not like that store being downtown with what they were about to do in downtown Greensboro. As you can see, downtown Greensboro is something different right now. It's beautiful, but I don't think that they wanted art in that spot or us in that spot anymore. So just one night, out of the blue, a random fire happens. The whole store burns down, all of Art's inventory, everything burns down. A popular congressman at the time, white guy, Republican congressman, whose offices are in Raleigh. When the store burned down, 2 o'clock in the morning, as we're standing down there watching the store burn down, he's standing out there with us. Why was he downtown Greensboro at 2 o'clock in the morning? I have no idea. Did he have anything to do with it? I have no idea. It was suspicious to me to see this random white Republican congressman standing downtown in Greensboro at 2 o'clock in the morning watching the black store burn down. That was just me. Art's brother Clint, who is also a genius, is a mad scientist. The man can build anything. The man can fix anything. They bumped heads so much, but it was all love. Clint was the guy who worked in the kitchen with myself and Jerry. He taught us most of this stuff. Clint made the recipes his own and added his own flavor to them, and he taught the recipes to us. When Art got burnt down, Clint went to their family home and built another store on the back of their family home, the home that they grew up in, the home that their mother lived in. He built an entire store on the back of this home, which speaks to his genius. Also, anyone who's drinking alkaline water like myself, Clint made an alkaline water machine, and this is like early 2000s. The intelligence in that family is nothing short of amazing to me. But in the store at the house, we had all the same stuff. You had the produce section, you had the kitchen, you had the books, you had the crystals, you had everything the same. Every Sunday it became tradition for us. I guess right up until we started having children, my wife and I and all the fellas, we would take this 2-hour ride to Virginia. The land is actually in North Carolina, but you had to go into Virginia and then come back into North Carolina to get into the land. Art had 200 acres of land in Virginia, raw land. He had a house out there. We helped him to work on the house. We helped him to clear the land, and we would just go up there on Sundays with machetes and walk through the woods and just chop down pathways through the woods and walk to the lake and jump in the lake and swim with beavers. We were hippies. His vision was to have a community, his own community. And I say his own community because Art did have rules and that of certain things that he just wouldn't allow onto his land. And I think that's kind of what attracted people, but also drew people away, repelled people, because of all the rules that he had. And this is just who Art was. Like I said, he was Art. He was rigid, and he was unrelenting and uncompromising in his beliefs. So he had this vision to build houses and to allow folks to come up there and live on the land and stay off the grid and just start a new colony, type an ecovillage. Yeah, good word. I don't think that it was cultish in any kind of way, and I'm one of the first people to call stuff cultish. I don't believe it was cultish in any kind of way. He didn't want you worshiping him. He didn't want you bowing down to him. He didn't want you to feel like he was anything more than what you are. He just knew what he knew, and he wanted to share his knowledge with everyone, and he wanted to share his wisdom with everyone, and he wanted everyone to have long, prosperous, healthy lives. Some ways to keep his legacy alive. Things like this, talking about him. Videos, showing the new generation videos and teaching the new generation about who he was. The same way that we idolize other historical figures from Greensboro. Artis now one of the ancestors, I make sure that everyone knows who Art was. He was a heavy fixture in Greensboro. He never name dropped, but there were a lot of famous people who would come, and they would come seek out Art for his wisdom or seek him out for his medicines. I like to say how much I miss the guy. He passed away without me seeing him for a long time. We kind of just lost touch. Life just had life, and just happening. So I hadn't seen Art in many years, but he always had a place in my heart. He was always Papa Scorpio. He was always somebody that I looked up to. He was my mentor. I wish I had gotten to see him. I had even made plans for my new wife and myself to go see him when he came to Greensboro, and something came up. He came to Greensboro either right before he passed away, or he never made it. Something happened and he didn't make it, or something like that. And I didn't get a chance to see him, and I hate that. But I would also just like to say that I don't think Art passed away naturally. I don't know the people that he was around, because like I said, I haven't seen Art in years. It just doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound right. I'm an intuitive person. It just doesn't feel right for a man who was climbing trees at 70 years old and full of life, to all of a sudden just leave here like that, and to be buried without any of his friends and family and loved ones getting a chance to see him or say goodbye to him. Just doesn't feel right to me. Not accusing anybody of anything. I don't know what happened, and I don't pretend to know. All I can talk about is my feelings and what I feel. And to me, the whole thing just doesn't feel right. It's never settled right with me, and it's been, almost 2 years since he's left. And it's just never felt right to me, and I will probably go to my grave feeling that same way, because again, he was buried and gone without anyone being able to offer any kind of proof towards anything, whether it was proof towards the affirmative that he died naturally, or proof towards him not dying naturally. Either way, there was no proof. So it will always just be a feeling. But I miss the guy. I miss Art. Papa Scorpio.
Shalom, I am a holistic health professional, raw vegan chef. I trained and studied under Artis Hinson at Body Ecology about maybe 20 years ago, 21 maybe. And also the creator of Rawtopian Bliss out of Columbia, South Carolina. And so right now I'm doing a lot of personal chefing, health coaching, and just growing and evolving in my spiritual being. I'm so excited for these times that we're living in. I met Art, I think it was in 2001, and I met him actually at a party where he was actually doing a raw foods demonstration. I ended up being his assistant for the evening. He was doing a raw pie and some other goodies and things like that. And I was just fascinated because I was doing classes as well, just from a vegetarian, vegan perspective. I think at the time, vegan wasn't even a word for me, but I was. And so we ended up shutting down the party that night, just talking and building. And he eventually offered and asked me if I would come to Greensboro to assist him with rebuilding his business. And I was like, yes, I would love to. He said he would train me on raw food. So that's how it all began. I was just fascinated that somebody, I never heard of raw foods, even though I had just come from California. I just wasn't in the vein of raw foods. And when he told me he had been a raw foodist for like almost 30 years, I was like blown away. And I'm like, okay, well, you have to show me this. And so I was just fascinated, and everything that he had to say was so confirming and affirming for where I was on my own path. So I knew that was like the next level for me.
Was this after the downtown location had been destroyed? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
It had burned down like 6 months before I had met him. And I actually was on my way to Oregon to a meditation retreat. But I knew as soon as I left Oregon, I was heading straight to Greensboro. Clint actually built that building with his hands, with his bare hands. And I was like, okay, we need to just go ahead and open, because it seemed at a certain point, things were not moving the way they should. And I'm good at organizing and motivating and making things happen. So I just said, look, we need to go ahead and open up. I'm just going to get out there and clean it up real good, and we're just going to go ahead and open. So eventually we did. And it was an awesome journey in a lot of ways. Clint was the chef at the time. And so because the deli itself was not functional, because we were still trying to get it open and cleaned up and all that good stuff, we were inside in the house. So every day, first of all, as soon as I got there, I just organized the kitchen. And then Clint was the chef, and he was making miracles out of nothing. Seriously. And every day we would go through this same little ritual. He'd make something, and then he'd say, taste this. I said, oh my God, that's good. He said, isn't that good? I'm like, oh my God, that's good. It was like this every day. And so I just stood in the kitchen, and all I did was watch him and clean up behind him.
Wow.
And that's how I learned, just from watching. And his process taught me the principles of how to put together really great raw foods dishes. And he taught me that it was really all about the spices, the herbs and the spices. That's what creates the flavors. And I love so many different genres of food. I love Thai food and Mexican food and Ethiopian food. So it was just all about finding those spices, and it was really awesome. I loved it. One of our rituals was every Sunday we would go up to the land in Virginia, just across the North Carolina line. And the house that was on the property was really like an old shack. And then way off in the woods was like a log cabin. And it's just, we would go and hold a vision. We would go to the lake. We would trudge through the jungle, basically. And he would have his machete and his stick. And we would just talk about the vision and hold the vision. And slowly but surely, everything started coming together. And unfortunately, I stayed we got to go to the land. We got to build on the land. But it's such a process that by the time it was time for me to move on, the land it was in development, but it wasn't where it is at this time. And I was so proud that years later that I would go up there. When I would come to Greensboro and visit with Art, we would go up to the land, and the house was just beautiful. So much was being done. And I remember brother, what was the brother's name? Brother Marvin, it was the elder gentleman who did all of the construction up there. But he worked on that log cabin. Everything was just beginning to be functional. And it just was beautiful to see and to watch. And I'm so thankful it's still kind of moving forward. So I've always, taken astrology with a grain of salt. In my spirit, I think I always knew it was definitely it was something to it. It was a real science. But not until I came to body ecology and actually got a full alone reading by Art did I really and truly understand that this is a real science. And when he did my chart and he printed out this printout in about 25 pages, I'm like, oh my God, does this computer know who I am like this? And it was so awesome because it's like I made sense to myself even more after getting that reading. Art was definitely awesome. He also created healing oils based on people's astrological makeup, the oils that resonate with your astrological makeup. And he had a whole log of people who were his customers with testimonies of how his oils had helped to heal them and helped their lives to be better and smoother and helped them to get through all kinds of different traumas and everything. Art was a master. He really, really was. And I just have so much love for him. I wish I had spent more time with him in his later years, but it was just so much going on in his life that I didn't see space. And then I had so much going on in my reality as well. So, but I'm so forever indebted to him for introducing me to raw foods. He actually also gave me the recipes to his healing oils. He told me how to do it. He gave me that gift, and I still have that information. And I always wanted to, at some point, start making oils for people that are healing oils based on their astrological makeup. He was so very giving in a lot of ways as well. So I'm just so thankful. Art kept a whole entourage of beautiful, spirited, and beautiful, physically just beautiful women around him. And you know, most of all the women that knew him knew that he was searching out his divine mate. And he was always trying to find a way to make every woman his divine mate. And so it was a beautiful experience. I met so many awesome ladies through him, and sisters that I'm still in connection with, like Nadira, and so it just was always beautiful women around, and we were all catering and serving him in some form or fashion. And he as well was serving us because, you know, he was a master astrologer. He had a humongous library. I lived in that library. He had so many awesome books. I learned so much while I was there. I was actually there for about a year, and it was awesome. I think we honor Art best by always remembering him in our hearts, expanding in our own lives the teachings that he poured into us, always speaking his name. I know when I go out and I do talks and I share with people, and I do a lot of that. I've done a lot of that. I haven't done a whole lot since COVID other than recuperating in my own life. But you know, I always mention body ecology, and I always reference him and give honor to all that he blessed me with in my life. And I think those of us who have been his students, we should always continue to stay linked together and connected, because when we do come together, it's like Art's spirit is always in the midst because he has had such a profound effect on our lives. So I just think us being our best, living in our greatest light. Folks can actually, I think, purchase his book, From Dogma to Light. That was another big project that he did. Very powerful piece of work. And like all masters, you know, we were human at the same time, and we made choices. A lot of that which went on in his life reflected his mastery, but it also reflected his humanness. And just to remember that we're everything. We're God. We're the love. We're the light. We're our lower energies. we're all of it. And Artis Hinson was a blessing and a gift. Just in my own reality, I'm thankful. I feel like everything in my reality is going to the next level. I am in sort of partnership and association with the whole nother vegan movement that goes on, that is expanding very grandly all throughout the Carolinas. And that's the Vegan Vibes music series, and one of my business associates, Marathi Howie. I feel like just coming in contact with him is like a launch to the next big level of greatness in the realm of just plant-based living, eating to live, living and loving in the light. And I feel like art has been a big part of elevating me to the point where I could even get to this point. And I'm so thankful for where I've been and so thankful for where I'm going.
Dr. Tamika Carter, and I'm a college professor at North Carolina A&T State University, and I'm the owner of the Black Belt Soap Company, where we make natural, handmade skincare products and wellness. I moved to Greensboro in 1999. I can't believe I've been here this long. And I moved here to become a student at A&T for the master's program in African American literature, and I had to drive across, downtown, and I would always see these beautiful Black and brown people coming out of this shop, right at this major intersection. And I said, one day I'm going to go in there, see what everyone is gathering about. And the name of the shop was Body Ecology. So one day I stopped. This was probably late fall in 1999. And I walked in and I truly felt at home. I met Art and his brother Clint at the shop. And we had been friends since. I was really intrigued. He had these crystals. He had essential oils, books. I was just really curious because I wanted to learn, everything. And the store had good vibes. There were wonderful people working there. And so my impression was, wow, this is a cool, eclectic, Black-owned space, and I'm happy to be here. So it was, really great vibes. That was my initial impression. Art came off a little strong. So Art would have this diagram of your gut. And he was always telling people, this is what your gut looks like, and you need to, eat clean, you need to eat raw. And, I think the first product I got from Art was an essential oil blend for my birthday. So he piqued my interest with his astrological readings. And so it was great learning about myself, and I have a special perfume made with all the oils of my birth sign and the time in which I was born. So, we would talk about astrology a lot. And so that was, I think, our first connection. Once he realized that I am a fellow Scorpio, he did a deep dive because Clint, and I clicked really well. And so at one point, Art did an astrological reading of the three of us and found out that I had similar energy of their mother. And so the chart formed like a triangle between the three of us. We were connected. It was really interesting because I was early 20s, I think like 22, 23 when I first moved here. And I was essentially like their mom figure. And although they were much older than me, I would constantly have to break up little squabbles and say, hey, be nice to each other. And they would both confide in me about each other and different things. So while they were both mentors for me, I really felt as if, I was mentoring them and helping them in a lot of areas too. So it was a mutually beneficial relationship. And so all of us became really close. They were kind of like brothers to me. I never had brothers growing up. And I love to learn from them. I love their stories. They had a store in DC. They would tell me stories about Maya Angelou had her first book reading for I Know Why the Caged Birds Sing in their DC store. They would tell me their relationship with Dick Gregory and other people. They would talk about their import-export business, how they had a food truck in DC, and they both returned to Greensboro to help their mom. So Clint and I probably were closer than me and Art. And Clint would talk about his travels around the world, and he would introduce me to different foods and just tell me about the amazing places. And so with my interest in travel, I would be all ears, So they both imparted into me in different ways. I would literally sleep on Art's floor in his bedroom just because I would be there all night reading through books and having conversations, and I would be in awe that he was so disciplined. Like, I didn't know anyone who journaled every single day. He would do his yoga and journal. He would fast several times a week. I took a raw cooking class or raw preparation course with him in his kitchen, and there was never like a sexual relationship with either one of them. I just really loved them as brothers, and they helped me through a lot of interesting times in my life, and I could confide in them and trust that the information would just stay with them. So they worked well together, and when they didn't, it wasn't so good. Clint was, or is, very gregarious and such a people person, and he wouldn't meet a stranger, and he would pull the people in to come to the store and try the food. I witnessed people literally putting out a cigarette on the sidewalk. These were not vegans or raw foodists. They would come in and Clint would say, "Hey, taste this," and he would give them a fork, and they'd be like, "Man, that's good," and they would buy raw food dishes. Kids would eat the food and just stand at the counter and dance, and I'm witnessing all this, and we would laugh and say that, "Oh, we have a live food party going on." So Clint would make raw food cakes, and it would be ready to slice, right afterwards. So it was a great time to be at Body Ecology. It was a wonderful community of people, and we would go upstairs to it's like a lounge meeting area with, sofas and everything. And we really have very deep conversations about the plight of African Americans and the city of Greensboro, and just how we can make positive changes in the community. So these were special meetings, interesting conversations that we were having. And so, especially with me being in an African American literature master's degree program at the time, I was fully immersed, and these were older people, so I would learn so much from them, and I would meet a amazing people. It was just a very vibrant community of sharing knowledge, sharing good food, sharing wisdom and love. And I never saw, people, with just nasty attitudes. It was just good vibes, good energy. So I miss those days, and it was really unfortunate when the store burned down, quote unquote. So we have our conspiracy theories about that, but we were all very disheartened when that happened. And then Clint, saved the day. He built a store as an extension of their home. So they helped sustain each other in different ways, and they had their own way of showing love and appreciating each other. They both were big stars, and they both wanted to shine brightly, so, and they both did. Art saw a community of people healing on the land and, I guess, purchasing plots to build their homes there. I truly miss my friend and mentor, Artis Hinson. He was a pillar in the Greensboro community, and he brought diverse people together to learn about holistic wellness, eating healthy, life-giving energies, essential oils, he shared so much knowledge and so many gifts with us. And you are among the ancestors now, Art, and I just ask that you continue looking over us and keep instructing us from the other side of how we can keep the movement going. We love you, and I know you'll be with us always. Thank you for being an amazing spirit. Thank you.
My name is Fahim Hanna. I'm a community organizer and perfumist. I'm the owner of Sensuous Scents here at 807 Westgate City Boulevard. So you guys can come visit us if you need any oils, incense, and or if you want to get involved in the community, tons of community organizing events and that kind of political work. So the family started the perfumery here in Greensboro in about 2006. And there was a time between when he had the shop on Market and when it burned down. So when we had opened up the perfumery, people would come in and they would say, "Hey, you guys got any?" Like, we had oils, so they're like, "You got any of those birthday oils?" And we didn't. We didn't do that at the time. And then we found out that Art Body Ecology did it downtown, so we would send people down there, and that's how we found out about Art, through kind of that word of mouth. And we were like, well, who else is doing this thing, this birthday oil? And so then we went and saw him and visited with him and struck a deal. So he had his birthday oils inside of our perfumery, so you could get our oils, and then you could also get his special blends. He had 12 special blends. And that's how we started the relationship with Art as two businesses operating in Greensboro. And I was really into collaborations like that. He really valued and appreciated things like that. But then I got to know Art personally at the festivals. He would do, I think it's Bennett Park, and them five wasn't there were a group of folks who were setting up all these really amazing Black conscious events and festivals, and both me and Art vended at those festivals, and so I was in close proximity to Art. We talked when things were slow or something. We would sit around and talk about stuff. His booth was always very strange because it was a big table with a lot of like really ripe fruit, and people would be like, oh, that fruit's ripe, like you don't want to eat that, right? But that was his jam. He was like, no, this is the perfect time to eat it, the perfect amount of sweetness and fermentation and yada yada yada, right? So and so we would get to rapping about that, and that's how I got to know Art a little bit better personally that way. I was pretty young when I met Art, and so to me he came off a little curmudgeon, but like a little cranky, you know what I mean? But also he was a great example of the fact that like kindness isn't always like a smile and a joke and that kind of thing, because he really did, even though he didn't have like always that like outwardly like kind of like expression, he really had a deep care for people and people's health too. He was always talking about health and very specifically health in the Black community. He was always very centered around exactly the kind of healthcare he thought the Black community needed. The shop burnt down off of Market Street, and then he had his business off of Bimbo for a while, and then he kind of disappeared off the map. We heard that he went out to Virginia. He was way out in Virginia, and I didn't really have very much communication with him around that time. And then I moved the shop from Bessemer, the perfumery. I moved it from Bessemer to Gate City Boulevard, and at the time, like this was really in the heart of COVID, like around 2020. And Art was one of those vendors. He just came in. He said, "I heard you have space open for vendors and stuff." And I hadn't seen him in a good little while at that point, but his consistency is just astounding. It's just like such a powerful thing about him is just his consistency. And once again, also consistent as he was like, I'm down for a collaboration, and he was. And for about a year and some change, he was bringing in his foods and his tonics and his medicines, and his clients who were in Greensboro were picking them up from the Greensboro branch of our perfumery. So it was very cool to be back in a connection with him in that way. And then, he was feeling a little like he was still doing the good work, but he also was feeling just a little deterred by just recent events and people maybe not staying as consistent on their health as he would want them to be.
Can you give an example?
Yeah, I think maybe it was also centered around people not quite following him out to Virginia. It's a big jump for people to go from the city to like way out to Virginia. People like he wanted people to collaborate with the land, but maybe some of the requirements were a little steep. Like you couldn't bring any meat on the land. His process for like ownership or like leasing out was a little bizarre and expensive maybe. So maybe some of that was part of it. Maybe that was part of it. It's hard to be a visionary. You have such a big vision and you have to translate it down, and then if it doesn't work, the only thing to do is to translate it down again, and so that can be frustrating. And I think he was just feeling that. But he was also hopeful too, because this was last year around June, July. I was talking to him. He'd come in and drop off his stuff, and we'd just get to talking, and and I would tell him about
2021.
2021. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this is a couple months before his actual. You know, he'd come in and we talk, and I would tell him that people were missing him. You know, people would see our product and go, "Oh yeah," and they would tell me these stories about him, and "Oh yeah, I missed him," and he really helped me with this health problem I had, and so I was just relaying some of these messages to Art, and yeah, and he kind of liked to hear those stories, and so he had a good idea. He was like, we should do some speaking, right? So we suggested, you know, like talked about it, and he said, you could do it here. You could do it here at the storefront. You know, I'll tell people, and they can come and hear you speak. You know, and they can ask questions, and you can kind of do that lecture. And the first time we tried it, maybe then he was not feeling quite up to it. But then around the beginning of November, he was really back into the idea. And then by the time we got flyers going and people talking about it, he had passed. So. Yes, we had a couple of series where he was gonna speak set up. And so that, I mean, that's just a testament to like his consistency, and then, you know, his ability to try again, even if it didn't feel like it worked the first time, in his reinterpreting his vision. And people would tell me his book was like kind of the big vision, you know. He kind of laid it out in this book, and so the bigger picture was that. So Body Ecology, I mean, they were doing live food, right? And this was like, you know, kind of beyond vegetarianism. It was like, we're not even cooking the food. We just letting the sun heat it up and mixing it together. And it worked. It tastes good. And that's, you know, that's rule number one in food. It's got to taste good. And he was able to do that. But it's a great storefront. The Bimbo address was a little more kind of in the cut, a little more secluded, and so he lost maybe some of his following with that. And you know, I don't think he ever recovered from the fire in the way that he. I mean, it's difficult. Your whole business burns down. It's hard to recover everything you locked away, but then bounce back. You know, I visited the Bimbo address. It was still beautiful. Still had all the herbs on the shelf. He still mixed you up a ton, and of course, the birthday oils, which is
right. Can't go wrong without those.
Yeah, exactly. People say you're never truly dead as long as people remember you, and so I think really that the task is like how should we remember Art, I think remembering him as a healer, as somebody who, despite the difficulties of conveying a huge vision, still persisted, and and we should think of him as an example of what you can do when you get back to the basics, when you really just focus on food and good people, and and health. Health is wealth, you know. And I think he used to say something similar to that. Like he believed it, you know. It was like ain't nothing more valuable than your health, and he believed that right up to his own ascension. So.
Is Clement Mallory. I run an organization called Kids Poetry Basketball. It's actually a literacy program for kids ages 4 to 13, and we teach them how to read, spell, and identify poetry words while playing basketball. We've been doing that for 13 years now, but I'm a poet by heart. I'm a hip hop poet by trade, and but our job is to bring up the next generation. You know, teach the babies. So that's what I'm doing basically. I met Artis Hinson in 1999 as I was riding the GTA bus, and I saw about the Ecology sign, and I basically saw that it was a health food store. So I basically went into the store, met Art, and it's been a beautiful friendship since 1999. I was just thinking of how beautiful the spot was, and his energy was all about healing people and helping people to better their lives with eating right and taking proper herbs to heal ourselves. So his energy was great. It was bubbly, full of life, definitely. Body Ecology, when it was on Market Street, downtown Greensboro, was a health food shop / eatery, and that's where I actually met a few other people that worked with Art, Jeff Crosby and Jurison, Spencer, and it was clean. It was very clean. It was very organized, and Jeff and Spencer presented great customer service, and I was just really impressed with the fact that, wow, there's a health food store in Greensboro, you know. So it reminded me of the health food stores that are in downtown Brooklyn and on J Street, Borough Hall, and so I was looking for something like that, and that's what Body Ecology represented. Once again, I was just looking for the sign, you know, Body Ecology, and it was a health food store, and I saw black people inside as I was driving down. Riding on a bus, I saw black people inside, so that really sparked my interest. Like, wow, what's going on? You know, so I went into the store on the strength of that, like, real talk. You know, it's a black-owned business, and I wanted to support that. And it was a health food store. You could tell they had herbs, they had eatery food, they was chopping stuff. You know, they was making everything on the spot. You know, so that's what attracted me initially. Art is considered a healer in this community, and I'm sure other communities worldwide, in particular Washington, D.C., where he used to sell his food items, have his store before it became Body Ecology. But even there on the campus of Howard University, he used to sell his items out of his own truck, and his impression to me was a person that really cared, and people see that, you know, and people have been healed by him and benefited from his medicines, his herbal tonics, his detox tonics. You know, a lot of people went to Body Ecology to receive that detox to clean out their system from weed, you know. And so, you know, that was a big hit for Art, you know. But there's a lot of other stories that Art and I discussed over the years about how people were healed from his
his tonics. Art definitely, to me, represented a more of a good energy type of person, you know, and I fed off of that good energy. He represented a person that made sure that he gave opportunities to individuals in the community. He definitely helped me personally in so many ways, and but just being around him with his good energy, I mean, it would be times where I would need a place to stay, you know, and Art would put me up. He actually offered the business to me when he was on Bimbo. He wanted me to take over the Ecology, and at that time I was just so into my own poetry, and I didn't want to be confined to being at the Ecology, so I turned it down. But I still hung out there, ate there, slept there, and learned a lot from him through his studies, his astrology teachings, and I learned a lot about myself through him, you know. I learned that my life was a precious life from him. He used to always tell me, like, your life is precious, so that allowed me to really stay positive about my life. On many days that I was down and out, once again, he put me up in his house, gave me herbs to clean out my system, heal my system. But I think the biggest impact is his love, you know, and that, as a poet, you know, he also contributed to a number of lines to a few of my poems, you know, so he definitely showed me the business side of being an entrepreneur, and that really inspired me as well to what I'm doing right now in the community, serving, you know, giving back to the community, and that's what I think Art gave to the community and myself. He gave back life to the community. When Art first received those acres, myself and I forgot the other young man's name were the first ones to help, you know, really work the land, chop the trees, and build the house that is now on the land. So it was a great privilege. Like, we used to travel like 3 days, 4 days a week, and just go and just build on the land and work the land and walk the land. And our pavement was free food, and that was great pavement, you know what I mean? a lot of trays, food trays from Art, but also opportunity, once again, being chronically homeless, a place to stay, you know, so it was like an exchange. Like, you work the land, you can have a place to stay, so it was great. And I learned a lot about carpentry and just land and, you know, soil and different plants and knowledge that Art used to, on our way driving to the land, would talk about, you know. So that was a great experience, just driving to the land, driving back from the land. The overall vision for that land was to build a eco retreat, a place where people of like minds can go and live. it was something for the community. You know, it was something that if you invest in it, you will have a place called your own. Like you will have your own acre on his 200-acre land. Like he wanted people to be free in that way. But it didn't, you know, really flourish that way for whatever reasons. But that was his vision, to allow people to have ownership of land. You know, like this is what you own. You own this amount of acre of land. You know, that was his vision. And I think because for whatever reason, it could be whatever reason it is for each individual, from the price to the distance to whatever, you know, it didn't really catch on to a lot of people.
How can we keep his legacy going?
By doing what you're doing, you know, creating videos and keeping his name alive and his products alive. His legacy of utilizing herbs and oils, and we continue to do that, we can keep his legacy alive. It's what I think what we need to have, and what you did was H2O, like a retreat or a conference or something like that, and in his name, or a gathering. It's almost like what the Father Allah has, and what the Nation of Gods and Earth has, which is show and prove. And a show and prove is to, you know, gather people around Gods and Earth, and basically, like the Father said, Allah said that as long as you gather and you show and prove, I will always be around. You know what I mean? So if we can create things like that, events like that, you know, putting his name on, you know, a street name, you know what I mean? Name after art, a mural, something, you know, statue. Those are like material things, but still just having events and doing videos like this is cool.
I am Nadira Goldsmith, visionary writer and producer.
What is your association to Artis Hinson?
I would just say a beloved student, friend. He was a mentor for me. I met him while I was a student at Bennett College in the early 90s. I graduated from Bennett in 99, so I think about 95 I probably met Artis, about 1995. He had a store downtown, and I would often, I was first introduced by a close friend of mine on campus at Bennett College, an all-female college in Greensboro, North Carolina. She told me about, you know, this place I had to visit, and I started to frequent the store. It was very eccentric. My name, Nadira, means rare, precious, and unique, so I instantly connected with the store. There were beautiful women there that, you know, it was like, oh yeah, I'm beautiful too. I'm in the right place. And, you know, they were very spiritual, very intelligent, and just out of this world. And I'm like, hey, this is who I am. This is who I'm becoming. And, you know, just the crystals in the store and all the exotic natural foods was just like heaven. It was heaven for me walking into the store. Yeah, it smelled good, and had oils there, and, you know, just all these beautiful books that weren't the normal, you know, about, you know, our spirituality and astrology and eating natural. It was just a beautiful, out of this world gift. My impression was out of this world. He was magical. He was like this master that I actually had the opportunity to talk to and ask questions, because most of the masters that I had, you know, knowledge of were had transitioned. So this is like a master before my eyes that I could speak and ask questions about it. And he even would respond like a master, kind of putting the question back to you and, you know, making you think. I would just say he was chosen. He was the chosen one. And his astrological makeup was amazing. He's a Scorpio. You know, Scorpio people are just out of this world anyway. You know, they're very passionate learners. They think out of the box. They live out of the box, you know. They walk to the beat of their own drum. So he was chosen, yeah. And I'm thankful that I was chosen to live amongst him, to be amongst him, to learn amongst him, to live amongst him, you know, and actually live with him for some time. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing because I felt like, you know, we were living this amazing life of just being in alignment with our highest self and putting living foods into our body and just having access to all things that were healing. Just to live in a healing house inspired me to have my house be a healing, you know, a healing space wherever, you know, I would later live and, you know, dwell in. I just wanted to always take that with me to, you know, my house should be a place of wellness, you know, in every area, whether it's the bathroom, the kitchen, the bedroom. I wanna live, you know, in harmony with healing. My experience with the land piece, I would say, came when he introduced me to Sashalom, and this is at the time when he was preparing to restore his business in back of his home. I forget how I came in contact with him, or I think maybe I was checking on him, and he invited me to come and meet the sister that was assisting him, Sashalom. And they were, you know, they were on another level now with this raw food, and you know, and I'm like, hey, if y'all feed me, I'll help y'all, and y'all can provide me with food, I'll start helping. And so I started a raw food diet, you know, working with them and helping them to reestablish the store. And so then as Sashalom, you know, lived there, I would go with them on certain Sundays to the land, and we would meditate and we would chant, you know, we birth new Eden, we birth new Eden, we birth new Eden. We would chant and hold the vision for the reflective gateways.
What do you think his main vision for the land was?
Healing. It was always about getting back to nature, you know, getting back to, you know, Mother Nature. One of his, you know, go-to books, Back to Eden, you know, that was a staple. And that's a staple book with a lot of healers. So it was all about helping to restore people back to their natural selves. I think honoring Artis' legacy is definitely remembering him, remember his work, you know, incorporating him into your prayers. You know, I'm an ancestral priestess in the making, so I definitely, incorporate Artis in my prayers, and definitely, I'm open to him guiding me on my path. But overall, Artis is to me honoring your life here on Earth, and that's becoming one with Earth, and eating from the Earth, and aligning yourself naturally as much as you can. Just being in alignment with our highest self, and putting living foods into our body. Yeah, I think that was his mission, to help people to understand that you have the power to heal yourself, you know. But it has to, you know, it has to be, and it has to be in alignment with nature. How can we be our true selves if we're not in alignment with nature? You know?
would you describe your brother?
He likes being in control.
Okay.
Like when we were little kids, we would find things like in the woods. We'd play in the woods. He would find something, or we would find something, and then he would swear me to secrecy, and then he would be in charge of it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Goodness.
We couldn't go there unless he said so.
Okay.
One of the things that we did was I had told my biology teacher I was going to mount a frog skeleton, and it didn't happen. So when it came time to do a progress report, I told him, you know, that frog is so small, I'm going to mount a cat skeleton. and then that didn't happen. So I figured, well, it's showtime. So we found this dog that was obviously a stray dog that was wandering the neighborhood. And took him down to one of the back streets in Benbow Park, and wrapped a towel around his muzzle and gassed him. De-articulated the skeleton.
Oh my goodness.
And drilled holes in it, passed wires through them, re-articulated the skeleton, and put it on display. And then boiled his skeleton in tide, and then brushed the meat off the bones. Growing up in High Point, North Carolina, and my grandfather lived at 403 Taylor Street, and the store next door belonged to my grandfather. So my grandfather was the greengrocer in that area, and had a store. The way we ran the store is I would spin the yarns, tell the people what we experienced in collecting the goods and the traditions surrounding them. He would have to just show people things and stand there to see if they were going to buy it, and offer to regulate the price. And I told him, I said, all right. I said, these people are not concerned with price. I said, these are all rich people. I said, they want to know, the story about him. He had a tax bill that was unpaid, and they came, padlocked the door, and just before they padlocked the door, I had arranged with a colonel, Colonel Hampton Pearson, who was the Inspector General for the Joint chiefs of staff to partner with me in the Museum of Western Art, which is right across the street. And a beautiful old building that used to be the headquarters of the family that owned the grocery store downstairs. And I refurbished it. And that's where the Museum of Western Art was. And I had, lots of important guests. Alex Nino and Alfreda Alcala, Stevie Wonder.
You established the museum while Phoenicia Unlimited was being closed.
Right. And now, he decided that instead of getting locked out, he was going to pull a fast one on him. So he gave the kid, changed it over to a girlfriend's name. His girlfriend had a little girl, and needless to say, she was looking after her own ends. And he went over to the greengrocers section, sold over there for a while, bought some trucks from the post office and fitted them out to be stores, then set up on a Howard's campus and made a fortune.
Was it body ecology at that time, or was it just? Do you know what inspired the name?
That's when he originated the name.
Do you know what inspired the name, or?
Well, your body's ecology is your state of health. An open body ecology in Greensboro.
Would you say that were mobile trucks a big thing, or was that something that you feel he invented or created, that trend of mobile food?
That was the first I ever heard of it. It was absolutely a first.
With the store being set up here in Greensboro, I believe it was downtown. How would you say business was downtown?
Real good, but even better after I opened the deli, because it was doing maybe $300, $400 a day. But after I opened the deli, it jumped up to $1,200 to $1,500 a day.
What type of deli was it?
Gourmet vital, breads, cakes, pies, cold soups, drinks, sauces, and entrees. And I made fruit pies that could be cut and served in 45 minutes. I made an orange barley cake that tasted like a pound cake, and it was glazed with an orange glaze, and it was decorated with sliced strawberries and sliced kiwis.
The store eventually was burned down.
Yeah, it was burned down by Ned Kearns, and Ned Kearns called himself the his intention was to revive downtown, and they didn't think too much of us having that much area because we had body ecology upstairs and downstairs, plus the area over the deli next door. So,
so you feel it's racially motivated?
oh yeah.
Okay. Was that maybe 5 years later or 2 years later, do you recall?
Well, yeah. Oh yeah, because I built a store in the backyard of our home.
Oh.
And I built it from the lawn up, and I even shot my own elevations and squared it up, did the earthwork, put in a bathroom, a sewer, and 3 double sinks, and baker's table with a sink.
Body ecology being at Stephen's place, did it begin to thrive as well?
Oh yeah.
And then the venture to the land, that was his vision, of course. Is that something that you supported?
Yeah.